Amiibo!
On February 16th, 2024, the final Smash Amiibo released, Sora. With his release, I figured now is as good a time as any to take a look back at the Amiibo line, its successes and failures. Except the card ones, I don't really care about those. Also, stick around at the end of the video, I have a little announcement. Amiibo started with the release of Smash 4 in 2014, where you can use them to train a fighter of your own with their own name and everything. It came out in the height of the Toys to Life craze, which was mainly held up by Skylanders at the time. Well, look who's laughing now. Amiibo did very well almost instantly. The wars you had to fight to get characters like Shulk and Rosalina who had little to no merch, and Bowser Jr. for some reason. If you were around at the time, I'm sure you remember how hard it was to find some of these. So how's the wave that released with Smash 4? Actually pretty solid. You have iconic characters like Pikachu, Mario, Yoshi, and Kirby, but also have some popular characters who don't get a lot of merch. Honestly, you couldn't have picked a better first wave. Overall, I think most of Wave 1 looks great, even though a lot of people make fun of Marth's Amiibo. The one I have doesn't look too bad, but it could have just been because it's the reprint. Honestly, the paint issue is pretty major early on, especially with characters like Villager whose face was like 90% printing. I mean, look at Villager's original release compared to now. And even characters who just needed eye printing had some issues. I was lucky, honestly, I have no major print errors, but my Diddy Kong's eyes are pretty weird, which is common, honestly. As you compare the old Amiibo with the new though, you really see how much detail gets put into the newer ones. One of the standouts is King K. Rool. The texture on his cape and scales blows me away every time I see it. In 2015, the Smash line got a bunch of Amiibo, but for the sake of time, there's only a couple noteworthy ones such as Mega Man and Sonic, who were the first third parties to get Amiibo, or Game & Watch, who has a unique gimmick to completely change what pose he's doing for his Amiibo. It's silly, but I love this. They didn't need to do it, but it's a cool thing to change around my display every once in a while. Now, this was at the height of the Amiibo boom, so characters like Shulk, Bowser Jr., Rosalina, and more were all store exclusives and a pain to find. Nowadays, if you pre-order an Amiibo, you'll be fine, but back then, it was hard to even get a hold of these. I never even saw Junior in stores. I got him for Christmas like years after he was out. Now that the Smash line has kicked off, what's next for Amiibo? Was there any other option? 2015 was the year of Amiibo, and what better way to kick things off than by having our first non-Smash line, which arguably was pretty bad as a Toys to Life product. Not the figures are great, but what games do they work on? Now how many games are they a major feature? That's the thing, these Mario Amiibo are always just random things in random games. And characters like Koopa got some later down the line, which is only random bonuses like a Koopa Troopa cardboard in Yoshi's Crafted World. Yeah! Giving skins is fine for stuff like the Wedding Amiibo, but did characters like Goomba and Koopa need Amiibo? They have bigger figures for cheaper. And even the last Mario Amiibo, which was in 2021, what did they do? Not even the Amiibo wiki knows. And the answer is just the same thing every other Amiibo does, a random item. So the Mario line, as cool as they are, they never did anything substantial enough for me to go get them for a Toys to Life rather than just having a cool Mario figure. But in 2015, the Mario line did have these cool 8-bit ones for Mario Maker, which I just think they're pretty neat. And their use in game is actually pretty unique because they've changed the whole style, it's like a filter. But the Mario line had one more thing. In the height of madness that is resellers, collectors, and normal people trying to get these, came the dreaded special editions. Gold and Silver Mario, which people were desperate to get. I really tried to find one, but never could.
There he is again. There he fucking is again.
They were a moment in time because eventually they became more common and you could find them at like Best Buy. You'd find a ton of Silver Mario at Best Buy. And once that happened, why bother? They didn't do anything special. They were just Gold and Silver Mario Amiibo to flex in your collection. And once they were common, who cared? 2 Mario characters got Amiibo, not in the Mario line though. Bowser and DK, who were in the starter packs for Skylanders Superchargers on Nintendo consoles. These are super cool. I only have Dark DK because I liked getting the Dark editions for Skylanders. And while this is my least favorite Skylanders game, which I'd love to talk about one day, these are awesome. They could swap between being Amiibo and Skylanders by turning the base, and they didn't have to do that, but it leads to a really unique Amiibo. Next in the year of Amiibo was Nintendo's newest IP, Splatoon, and with its unique designs and bright colors, was there any other option? The Splatoon Amiibo line lives on well and healthily, getting one for every major release, and with a series like Splatoon, who doesn't get much affordable merch, it was nice to get the Idols and Inklings and Octolinks, and this thing. Not only that, I like their implementation, especially in Splatoon 1, where you had to do challenges to get the costumes. They give you such unique costumes too, and help you talk and learn more about your favorite characters. Like this thing. Between the next major line in Splatoon, we had a short run of some other really unique Amiibo, like Woolly Yoshi. Not only are they cute plushies, but they're working Amiibo. They look so good, like they're handmade, and I always love them. Even if later releases in this line are too rare for me to get, I love when there's unique Amiibo like this. finally, the last major line in the year of Amiibo, which changed Amiibo forever, with Animal Crossing. Was there no other option? This started with the infamous Amiibo Festival, but surprisingly enough, that wasn't the issue here. The game is bad, yes. In fact, to prove it, I'll start a game now and tell you where we are by the end of the video. If you haven't played Amiibo Festival, it's like if you waited 3 hours at the doctor's office and finally the doctor comes in to tell you it's terminal because you lost a dice roll 2 hours in. Again, it wasn't just the game, but the amount of Animal Crossing Amiibo they pumped out for a series that at the time was popular but not huge was too many. So when they kept making these things, they started flooding store shelves, which meant store stocked less of the rare Amiibo, which means those rare Amiibo became even harder to get. And these Amiibo eventually ended up at like Five Below. I got the KK Slider 3-pack for $5. There was no demand for these. This meant in the next year, Nintendo would slow Amiibo down since all the shelf space was taken up by these Animal Crossing beasts, and they weren't selling. So, while there were some new series, like Zelda, it wasn't nearly as fast as it was in 2015, and never would be again. But that wasn't the only Animal Crossing series, because if figures weren't enough, they needed cards. And these cards, from my recollection, were pretty hard to find actually, especially the Sanrio. But nowadays, you can find them easily at Target. And I don't really care about the Amiibo cards, except for the Mario Sports ones, because those are hilariously bad. One that really confuses me is the Shadow Mewtwo card though, which came with some copies of Pokken. If only Pokemon had trading cards. Wouldn't this have been much cooler as a real Pokemon card that works with the console, like e-reader cards? 2015 had some other releases, but nothing super noteworthy. And with a year as packed as this, I think it's time to move on. 2016, however, starts with a major new release in January, the Shovel Knight Amiibo, which is actually the first one not produced by Nintendo. Instead, Yacht Club Games basically licensed the name Amiibo, which becomes a thing companies would do more as Amiibo went along. So if you ever wanted to know why they won't stop making Monster Hunter, now you know. Speaking of, Monster Hunter actually started this year with Monster Hunter Stories Amiibos. But what other series got Amiibo this year? 2. Zelda and Kirby. Zelda has continued to this day, but sadly it seems Kirby didn't sell well. They stuck around for a while and ended up at Five Below, so they never got another wave. Though honestly, in a post-Forgotten Land world, I think they would sell pretty well. So yeah, that's all the new Amiibo series that started in 2016. So now we'll catch up with the past series and see what they're up to. By March 2016, Smash 4's Amiibo run was almost done, with some of the DLC and the cool Rob Famicom, which I'm glad they brought over, and Lucas, who's alone for some reason. The DLC wrapped up in 2015, so surely the last DLC Amiibo would come out by 2016. Also, a golden version of Mega Man came out, which is the first special edition since Mario. It came with Mega Man Legacy Collection on the 3DS, and just acts as the Smash version. Mario had only one wave, with some major characters that were missing some. All of these are important characters in the Mario franchise. He gets a pass for glowing in the dark. Splatoon got the infamous rare color swaps, and the Squid Sisters. I don't have much to say, but I love the Idol Amiibo a lot, and these are no different. Now those had very little compared to 2015. I wonder why. Oh god damn it! Animal Crossing got 3 waves? Really? And that's it for Amiibo in 2016. Honestly, probably carried Nintendo's profit that year because Amiibo were still very popular and flew off the shelves besides Animal Crossing. It was so bad, I got Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival and 2 Amiibo for guess how much? No, guess. That's right, $3. Fast forward to today, and GameStop repackaged their Amiibo Festival Amiibo and cards separately for $25 each. That kinda sucks. 2017 was actually a pretty busy year for Amiibo, mostly due to the release of the NX, and it starts with March 3rd with the release of Breath of the Wild, with Bokoblin, a few Links, Zelda, and one of the coolest Amiibo, the Guardian, which bends its arms like those plushies with metal wires. They don't really do much, but they look nice. Later in the year, Zelda got some more Links and the champions from Breath of the Wild, and what did they do? Still nothing, but they look nice. In Japan, they got what is many people's holy grail, Box Boy, which came with the physical release of Bye Bye Box Boy in Japan. This Amiibo is one of the most expensive, going for almost $300 sometimes. And of all Amiibo to be $300, it's a box that's in another box. Back on the timeline, in May 2017, Fire Emblem started to get Amiibo, with Alm and Celica, who later got joined by Chrom and Tiki. When writing this, I was gonna say I didn't remember a real Fire Emblem game coming out, but I wanted to make sure and I looked it up. And yep, point still stands. I don't even know what they do, so I looked it up and they just give you a weapon in that game. So nothing crazy. In July, Splatoon 2 got Amiibo for its idols and Inklings. My Pearl and Marina Amiibo came from when they were pretty hard to find, and I remember getting so excited. I love these Amiibo, and I had the Dually one. I don't know, I got this when I was trying to get every Amiibo, but I just don't care about that anymore, and Amazon gave me a refund and I was like, do you want it back? And they just didn't. So now I have it. Great. So what else came out in July of 2017? What? Why were these 2 years late? Did they forget? Anyway, these are iconic characters and Corrin. Honestly, some of my favorite from Smash 4. I just don't get why they were a year after the last wave and 2 years late from finishing the DLC, but with this, they finished Smash 4 in 2017. I remember people were saying Amiibo might start dying, but rumblings of a new Smash game were already starting, so a lot of people already guessed that Amiibo were here to stay. Which was proved because not even that much later, the Pikmin Amiibo came out. It's very cute and used to be pretty rare, but nowadays it's been reprinted a ton. One Amiibo that is still pretty rare is the Samus and Metroid 2-pack. I wish I had it because apparently the Metroid is squishy, and as a big fan of those unique, form of Amiibo, I love the idea of a Metroid being like Jello. Then later in the year, Mario got some Amiibo with Goomba and Koopa. They look fine but are extremely useless, barely having any unique uses, especially because just a few weeks later, the best Mario Amiibo, the Wedding Series. I got them for Christmas, and they always have a special spot in my heart, especially Bowser. I love the wedding designs, and I'm happy they got merged, because besides these Amiibo and some plushies, they didn't really get much. And finally, the last Amiibo of 2017, just a few days before Christmas, the famous Mario cereal. This cereal was so hard to find, and I never saw it in person. It was getting scooped up by scalpers, children, and collectors combined. What did it do? No, there's no joke. It's not unique at all. It doesn't do anything. It's just the same thing any random Amiibo does in Odyssey, but with a cute little line. Which, this one I don't care about because honestly, if they tied something unique to this, I would have been mad because this was terrible to find. It expires because it's edible. But besides that, it's a really unique one, and I wish we had more stupid ones like this now. 2018 was extremely slow for Amiibo, and almost felt like maybe Nintendo did decide to end it, since of the 5 waves, 2 of them were not even made by Nintendo. But the first Amiibo to release that year was the final unique one, the biggest non-yarn Amiibo ever made, Detective Pikachu. I have this one stored away right now, so I can't show any specifics, but I love it, especially the hat's texture. Though honestly, I wish he had a more friendly pose. Why is he so mad? Is he telling me to stop? Now, this Amiibo is the first and only Pokemon Amiibo that's not in the Smash line, so it makes it even cooler like that, because they didn't even make any more after this. Now, what did such a unique Amiibo do? What in Detective Pikachu did they have to make a whole giant Amiibo for? They unlock the Pika prompts, if you haven't unlocked them, which is extremely boring. Not even a unique cutscene or anything, just an unlockable early. Well, what about in the sequel? Maybe they decided to reach for the skies and really use that Amiibo to get a costume at least. There's no joke, the second game doesn't support Amiibo at all. So that begs the question, why did Pokemon make an Amiibo for that? Like, did this have to be the only Pokemon Amiibo? Did they even have to make this? Why was it big? They could have made it normal size at least. Like, why? It does nothing. And in the sequel, they didn't even support it. But in May, we got our first of 2 third-party Amiibo of the year. Solaire from Dark Souls. A pretty rare one nowadays. And unique in a sense. Along with the next Amiibo, this character was never really associated with Nintendo. So why they even got Amiibo, I don't even know. And the only thing it really does is unlock the emote easier, which I guess is fine. I don't know much about Dark Souls, so maybe that emote was hard to get. But the next one's even weirder. It's the Diablo Amiibo, which is a carbon copy of some random figure. The Amiibo's so bad, it's just laziness. And from what I can tell, it has a unique area with riches, which is a cool use. Why did such a lazy Amiibo get a cooler use than usual? Now, unless I'm misinterpreting that, I don't know, I read that off a wiki. I don't know much about Diablo, so maybe it's not as unique as I think, but it just annoys me that they just reused a mold. And that was it, until that fateful day. A day I was awaiting all year. If you remember earlier in the year, a Nintendo Direct revealed one of Nintendo's biggest games of the year. Octo Expansion. The Octolinks came out. That's right, they're pretty cool and expensive now, which is weird, because I think they're really nice, and I didn't really see them much, so I thought they sold pretty well. Also, Smash Bros came out, and with that, new Amiibo to make! Everyone was here, and they needed to catch up, starting with Wolf, Inkling, and Ridley. All great Amiibo. The Ridley one is really cool, and Wolf looks nice, although I think the starting lineup could have been a little better. But Amiibo were back! And it was slowly obvious why 2018 was so slow. They need to prepare for 2019, which would be a huge stream of all the new Ultimate characters. But before we talk about Ultimate, let's talk about the 2 other major releases in 2019, starting with the final wave of Shovel Knight Amiibo. These were still third-party, and were basically all the DLC characters to celebrate the King Knight update finally coming out, and Gold Shovel Knight, which, despite the name, was pretty easy to find. These Amiibo gave costumes, challenge stages, and more. I assume these are cool, but I've never played Shovel Knight, so I don't know if they're actually cool. Second was the next wave of Zelda Amiibo. Well, I say wave loosely. It's the Link Amiibo that came out with Link's Awakening. What does he do? He's the only way other players can play your dungeons. So here's where we have to talk about what makes good Amiibo support and what makes bad Amiibo support. For most games that support just every amiibo, I think having bonus costumes is fine. It's cute and gives a little reward for having these. But for amiibo made for specific games, I'd like something a little more substantial, like maybe a bonus stage or something. But sadly, most amiibo that come out with games just do the same thing as other amiibo or nothing worth mentioning. Like the wedding amiibo, they just give costumes like other amiibo, and nothing else. Which is why lock those random costumes behind plastic? Especially now that they're $16 goddamn dollars, I'd expect a little more. But then there's pointless ones. I don't think I've ever used these for anything other than Smash. And I had to look up what they did for this, and they basically give you a double Yoshi Explosion. Which, honestly, for a line that I say a lot, I'm surprised I didn't realize that was the amiibo compatibility. Like, I say Woshi, that's a double Yoshi Explosion a lot. How did I not realize that was the amiibo ad? Honestly, this isn't that bad of amiibo support. I just played this game multiplayer, so I had no need for it. But, like the Detective Pikachu amiibo, just unlocks cutscenes for you to watch, which would be fine, but they made it feel so special because it was huge, for no goddamn reason. So I'd expect more from such a huge amiibo for the only Pokemon amiibo ever made. Why is it just cutscenes I already unlocked? But sometimes amiibo are a little too much, and the biggest example of that was the Link's Awakening amiibo. Now, the first of its features is cool. It creates a Shadow Link in the dungeons, and that's neat. It's not something I'm gonna be mad about missing out, but it's something that's cool to have the amiibo for. But what's not cool is the other feature, which is the only way to share dungeons. You have to scan the dungeon to the amiibo and then bring it to another person's house. Why? So if I want to show my friend a dungeon, I have to bring this amiibo, which has a sword, and those swords are pretty easy to break if you just throw it in a bag. They couldn't do online sharing or at least local sharing. It feels like a major feature that was locked behind this amiibo. But using that feature requires traveling with it, so no one's ever going to use it. It genuinely baffles me. Like, even in my school, we were refusing to bring our amiibos to school because we didn't want them to break, and there was amiibo like Kirby. Kirby wasn't going to break. This sword is definitely going to break if you throw it in a school bag. So this just confuses me. I just don't get why they choose some of these amiibo to do some things. Like, if they're going to be a costume, that's fine. I'd rather that than something like the Link's Awakening amiibo. But I most prefer when they're challenge stages. It gives me a reason to buy these because I want content, but it's not like if I don't have that content, I'll be mad, you know? So, amiibo features are weird. I don't know how they decide this. The Detective Pikachu one just confuses me because, like, it's so unique and it does nothing, and that makes me sad because I love that game. It's bad, but I love that game. I should talk about that one day. I need to defend that game. But now that we got that rant out of the way, let's go back to the releases. In February of 2019, we got our next wave of Smash amiibo: Plant, K-Rool, and Ice Climbers. All great amiibo. I love how the Icies hide their clear stand better than Link pissing. K-Rool is big and super detailed. As I said, I love the texture on the cape, and Plant looks great. I don't know why he's so big. Like, am I the only one who see how big he is? No one mentions it. He's huge, but he's a cool amiibo. Throughout the years, we got some cool characters, including Ken, who just barely steps off the base, so he has to use clear supports. The real interesting one comes from September 2019, when Snake, Squirtle, and Ivysaur came out. Snake also barely steps off the base, which, again, I just find funny. Like, they just barely step off, so they need supports. Like, they couldn't just maybe move their feet slightly. No one's gonna care if the feet were slightly closer together than they were in the renders. But no. The real interesting part of this wave is Squirtle and Ivysaur. Since they released Pokemon Trainer, I'm pretty surprised they released these, since they really didn't need to. But in the end of the day, I'm glad they did, because it makes for a cool little mini collection. Plus, they had Charizard already, so it would have been kind of weird if it was just Pokemon Trainer and Charizard. Sadly, these Pokemon do just act as Pokemon Trainer, which kind of sucks. I thought it would have been really cool to have them only as Squirtle or only as Ivysaur. It would have just been worse Pokemon Trainer, but it would have given them something unique to buy them for instead of just to have them. Finally, at the end of 2019, we got these three amiibo. They're pretty cool. Incineroar especially looks great in real life, and not many people mention it, but it's a really good amiibo. Then we hit another slump, which this time is not really Nintendo's fault, because in 2020, we only got 2 new wave of amiibo, amounting to 4 amiibo in total, the smallest release year ever. And these amiibo were only in the Smash line. The first of these was Dark Samus and Richter, rounding out the rest of the base roster they hadn't finished the year prior. And I know I keep saying it, but the detail is incredible. Like, I love the Dark Samus one. Then we got our first DLC amiibo, Joker and Hero. Hero was pretty easy to find, but I remember only seeing Joker once or twice. Both great amiibo, and I love the fire on Joker. Though I feel bad for people who missed him because he came out right before Persona became huge. So he was absurdly expensive secondhand for a little bit. But now he's been reprinted a couple times, so it's much more reasonable. I am really sad though that hero didn't get a 4-pack with his costume. It would have been pretty expensive, but it would have been so cool. Now 2021 saw a bit of a resurgence in Amiibo, starting with Bowser's Fury in February. When Cat Mario and Peach came out, I never really got them, and they seem to have that ceiling texture, but I already made fun of what these do, so let's just move on. Next came another really unique Amiibo, kind of. You see, in March 2021, Mario became real, and the main gimmick of the park was using bands to complete challenges to beat Bowser Jr. If you've ever been to Disney, think of these as magic bands, but they actually do something. And they're slap bracelets, that makes them infinitely cooler. Anyway, you may think that just like magic bands, between trips these will be locked away in a drawer, waiting to be used again. But actually, these can be used as Amiibo. Someone's Smash collection looks like this. I love this, it's kinda useless, but just kinda cool to see that unique Amiibo are still living on in our day and age. In March, we got our only Smash wave of the year, with 3 great Amiibo, especially Banjo's. I'm not really a Banjo fan, but even I can appreciate how good Banjo looks. In July, we got some more Monster Hunter Amiibo, and the Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo, which I only have because GameStop had it for $5. This Zelda Amiibo was pretty problematic because it was $25 on launch. Why? Good question. It was so stupid, in fact, no one bought it, so it's always been on sale. I think they finally weeded all the stock out because I don't see it anymore, but for a while you would always find it on clearance. Lastly, in 2021, we got the Metroid Dread 2-pack. It seems to have sold pretty poorly since I still see it at Best Buy to this day, and it was part of GameStop's $5 sale, but I don't know why, these look pretty great, I don't know why no one wants them. They're really cool Amiibo, especially I like the robot, the Emmy, that's really cool. 2022 was another pretty slow year, this time starting with Smash again in April, with Min Min's release. I didn't have too much trouble getting her with my pre-order, but I never saw her in stock anywhere. She looks cool though, but her clear supports are really weird. I don't know why they angle like that. Next up in 2022 was Steve and Alex in September, and they printed a ton of these. Until recently, you would still see them out and about. I assume because of Minecraft's popularity, they printed a ton, which makes sense. In November, Splatoon 3 and its Amiibo came out. With its popularity now, the Amiibo were super hard to come by. I only saw Small Fry once, but it is pretty cool that they made the Salmonids. That's pretty cool. And that's it for 2022. Honestly, with the sparse releases and the scarce supply, it was starting to feel like Amiibo were an afterthought, just releasing because they needed something out. And even then, there was one release that wasn't Monster Hunter or Smash. And our last new series was 5 years before, and it was Detective fucking Pikachu. So imagine my surprise when we started the year strong with Kazuya and the stellar Sephiroth Amiibo. We also had news that a Link Amiibo was coming out for Tears of the Kingdom, so the future was looking bright. But am I the only one who finds it weird Kazuya came out before Pyra and Mithra? I know they probably needed time to do the 2-pack and do both Pyra and Mithra, but until then they were keeping all the DLC fighters in order, so I don't know why they just rushed out Kazuya, maybe just to have something with Sephiroth, but yeah. With that, we only had 2 more Smash characters left, Pyra, Mithra, and Sora. I should have said 3. In May, the Tears of the Kingdom Amiibo came out, which still does nothing, but it's still pretty cool. In July, we got Pikmin 4, and with it, Pyra and Mithra. I don't know why they came out with Pikmin 4, but they were there. For the scale these are at, Pyra and Mithra are super detailed and look great. Next up in 2023 was the Ganondorf and Zelda Amiibo, which they were honestly pretty easy to get. I never got them because I already have a Ganon and Zelda from my Smash collection, but still, good to see they were available for Zelda fans. Ganon was $20 for some reason though. Next was Deep Cut. The trio got released around the 1-year anniversary of Splatoon 3 and close to the DLC. The gear is okay, but Big Man's huge and doesn't fit in the box, so that's cute. I really like these. I'm not really a huge fan of Splatoon 3, but Deep Cut was my favorite part of it, so I'm really glad I picked these up. But before we get to 2024, we have to talk about stock. Back in 2015 and 2016, the stock was fine. Common Amiibo were common, and the real issue was Nintendo wasn't releasing enough of the in-demand Amiibo to keep up. But that made sense given how huge the hunt for these things was. You'd think now that the hype is calmer, they'll keep up stock, right? No. In fact, I'd argue stock is even worse than then. Especially this past year. GameStop would constantly have the Monster Hunter Amiibo, but actual Nintendo ones? Good luck. I haven't even seen an Amiibo at Walmart in years, and Target gets them once every few months. And even then, I haven't seen one at Target for a while now. GameStop is your only bet for pre-orders too, so surely at least you could pre-order at GameStop, right? Well, When I went to pick up my deep cut pre-order, I was shocked to hear the employee mention that the big man I was getting was the last one, even though they should have enough for pre-orders. One, how shitty that they couldn't even ship enough for pre-orders because there was one more person pre-ordered Big Man and they weren't getting it because I got there first. Two, if pre-orders are full, you should order more for those that didn't pre-order, because after that, I only saw the idols every once in a while at Target, never at GameStop. I never even saw Fry again. Like, especially for a game as huge as Splatoon 3, you'd think they'd let them stay on shelves, but no. As far as I know, they only restocked once or twice at Target, and never again at GameStop. But to be fair, stocking 3 Amiibo would take up a lot of space. And my group of 4 were getting the idols, so that might have attributed. But seriously, not even enough for pre-orders is crazy. Nintendo really needs to get on that. I don't know if it ever happened anywhere else, but the fact that it even happened in one store is enough. Well, you may say, they're 3 Amiibo, they take up too much space, it'd be hard to stock, fine. But I raise you, the worst Amiibo stock in years. On the day of Pikmin 4, me and my mom woke up early to go get it. And the first GameStop was sold out of Pikmin 4, so that kinda sucked. But we asked what was nearby and stuff like that. I also asked about Pyramithra since I knew they came out, and I'd been hearing they were pretty hard to find online. So I wanted to see if I could get one. That GameStop said they got, and get this, 1 Pyramithra Amiibo. And that one was reserved for pre-order. 1 Amiibo for a popular character from a popular series in the Smash line, which is the most collected. So whatever, he gives us an address to another GameStop in the middle of nowhere that should have Pikmin 4. So we go, and while I'm there, I see them on the shelf. 1 Pyramithra Amiibo. So out of FOMO, or fear of missing out, I grabbed it. As I said, all morning I was hearing people struggling to find any in-store or online. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I want to get these before they become $100. So I get Pikmin 4, I get the pin sheet, and the Amiibo. And since then, I've only seen Pyramithra stocked 1 other time. Can you guess where? That's right, I lied. I never saw them again. Not at retro game stores, not at Target, not at GameStop, and definitely not at Walmart. But don't worry, there's plenty online for double, even triple the price that they released at. And that's the issue Nintendo faces with each and every collectible they release. They don't do anything to combat resellers. Amiibos, collector's editions. I waited hours to get the Xenoblade 3 Special Edition, and it sold out before my turn to buy it in the queue. And by the time it came back, I didn't have the money because I bought the game already. And since it came back 6 months later, I didn't even want it because I had the game. I wanted that steelbook, but I didn't want to buy the game again for $90. But don't worry, plenty are selling for $60 more on the aftermarket. It is seriously so frustrating. It even happens with Sony. I saw people struggling for the Spider-Man and FF7 collector's editions, but those eventually seemed easier to get than Xenoblade 3s. And it's an American problem too, because in the EU for a while, you could just buy the special edition stuff without the game, which would have been a savior over here, because I would have actually gotten it. I'm sorry for the rant, but it really frustrates me, especially the Xenoblade one. I was so excited for that game. So I was really bummed I couldn't get the special edition, because now the rest of the special editions are pretty expensive. So, again, I'm ranting. Nintendo has an extreme issue with stock. And while it seems they may be getting better with Amiibo, this year you've been able to find some of the restocks pretty easily. I've seen pictures of tons of Amiibo at GameStop, Nintendo New York, which doesn't really count because that's in one state. I want them available in every store, so I can actually get some, so other collectors can get some that aren't in New York. But I do hope Nintendo just gets better with protecting from resellers, because some of these are getting out of hand. The Xenoblade 3 incident, if you remember getting those pins for the Mario anniversary, that was hell. I was at my computer for literally 7 hours in a row to get those pins, and I got them, so I can't complain about that. But I shouldn't have had to sit at my computer for 7 hours to get them. I'm sorry. I know that was an extreme rant, but it's something that extremely frustrates me when companies just can't stock their major release as well. Because these companies can afford to push out a couple more products of the more sought after ones, but instead they'll release 1 Pyramithra Amiibo per GameStop and just let that be it. And finally, we've made it to current year 2024. Now, as I said, 2024 it seems they're getting better. Our first new Amiibo of the year was a 2-pack, our first new series since Detective Pikachu, Noah and Mio. These were pretty hard to find at first, but now they pop up at GameStops every once in a while. which is a nice change to pace from Shulk and Pyramithra, and it seems Xenoblade Amiibo were cursed, but these seem to have broken that curse. I love these Amiibo. They're super detailed, they look great, and I like Mio's pose just a little more than Noah's, but that's it. And they give costumes for a game. They were costumes we were begging for. They were the N and M costumes, and we were begging for those. So I'm really happy they finally released them with Amiibo. But it was kind of weird. It's like a year later. No, it's like 2 years since Xenoblade 3 came out. I don't know why they released these Amiibo now, but they could have come out with Future Redeemed at least. I don't know. Now, before we move on to the last Amiibo of 2024 so far, and our final Amiibo in general so far, I want to say some Smash characters that I wished got Amiibo and just didn't. For example, I like Brawl Ike a lot, and it came back in Ultimate, so I was really hoping he'd get an Amiibo, but we never got that. And what's especially disappointing is we never got the Zelda as Amiibo. This is probably my favorite Zelda design, and I was really crossing my fingers to get an Amiibo because I like it much more than Twilight Princess Zelda, but alas, it did not. So finally, the last Amiibo, Sora. Sora is a great looking Amiibo. In fact, if you want to hear my full thoughts on it, it's on my second channel. That's right, this whole video is set up to advertise my new channel. I made a new channel that is more unscripted, just goofing around with Pokemon cards or reviewing things like merch, toys, Amiibos, plushies, Legos, and more. And don't worry, this won't take focus from the main channel at all. It's just so I can get my Disney Cars opinions out there without flooding the channel you're watching right now. The link will be in the description if you want to check it out. I have a large backlog of videos getting ready to upload because I was gone for so long on this channel. Sorry for that, by the way. College was just really busy. So yeah, visit Pandee's Hobby channel for all your hobby needs, and I hope to see you there. Also, I was going to mention this in a Pokemon video I never made, but I'm buying one Tierno for every 10 subscribers, so join the cause. And while you're at it, if you're enjoying the video, leave a like to let me know you want more Pandee content like this. Now, back to Amiibo. Now, with the amount of Amiibo that were being pumped out from September to February, it seems Sora is the last for a while. We have no news on the future of Amiibo, so I'm assuming for the rest of the year we probably won't until the Switch 2. This whole video, I've been making fun of some of these Amiibo functionalities, either because they come from bad games, feel useless, or both. But my favorite Amiibo compatibility is Smash. It's so cool that you can train your Amiibo and they'll actually copy you. If you taunt a lot, they'll taunt. If you stay in the air a lot, they'll be in the air. It adds a lot because they could have just easily been like, yeah, you're teaching it, quote unquote, but have it just level up and become more powerful. But no, they actually made it learn, and it gives each Amiibo you teach this personal touch. I collect the Smash roster, and my goal is to have all my Amiibo compete to see who is the best in a future video. It's a feature that no one's missing out on, but if you use it, it's a lot of depth and makes every Amiibo feel worth it. That's why, if Sora is the last Amiibo, it's a good way to go out. A meaningful character ending off the game with the best Amiibo functionality. Though, I doubt Amiibo are dead. We've seen time and time again that they sell and continue to sell like crazy, and if you think they're going anywhere, I hate to say it, but you probably bought the Animal Crossing ones. And that's where we are with Amiibo. They have their issues, but I love them, and appreciate the budget alternative to figures of characters like Sephiroth and Pyramithra, and even giving characters like Wolf, Shulk, and K. Rool merch. Is it annoying to try and get them at MSRP? Sure, but it's worth it all the same. Now, we're at the end of the video, so let's check on Amiibo Festival. It looks like we're wrapping up our first turn. Maybe by the next upload, we'll get to the second.